automation to the reverb to accentuate one of the pitch bends as well. So this is what we've got. Hi guys, I'm SKETI, welcome back to a new tutorial. This time we're going to look at how to use creative pitch bending to make your leads, melody lines a little bit more interesting in your music. Doesn't matter what genre you're making, just to make them a little bit more interesting, sort of working a little bit more like how a voice would. So instead of just triggering a note, we're using a little bit more pitch bend to add that more interesting and unique sound to it. So let's get to it. Right, so I've just created a lead line here. It's sort of like a lo-fi hip-hop beat that I've created. It's just looping around. I'll just play that without the lead line for now. And then I went in, just made a serum lead line. It's dead simple, just two saw waves together, a little bit out of tune. Actually, I might tune that a little bit more. Also, an LFO applied to a filter as well, just take out some of the top end, because obviously it is a lo-fi beat that I've made. If we listen to that together now, so just a simple lead line that I've created, nothing special. So yeah, it sort of does the same thing in the first and the third bar, and then a little bit of a change on the end, and then when it goes back through again, the fourth bar on the second time around is different again. So just some uniqueness in that lead line, so it's not just repetitive all the way through. Now the first thing we can do just for pitch bend without having to actually use the pitch bend wheel is if we go into serum. Now most synthesizers have this tool, is obviously with it being a lead that I'm using is mono, and I tend to find this kind of pitch bend that we're going to be doing works best when it's a mono synth. I'm not saying you can't pitch bend a polyphonic synth, but a monophonic synth works best because it's obviously like a voice or a lead line guitar if you're playing a lead line, so on and so forth. And then what I've done is I've turned the portamento up to about 110 milliseconds. So that means if I hold a note down and then play another note above it, it's going to sweep up to that next note. So I'll do that on the keyboard now. So instead of just straight away jumping to that next note, it's got a little bit of movement up to it. Now this can be used in your lead line, so if you go to a MIDI region, obviously this is Ableton Live, is what I've done here is in the second bar, before it hits that F note, I've put a G sharp note in below it. Because the note extends past where the F note starts, it will sweep up to that note instead of just like playing that note and then triggering the next note like an instant leap. So if we listen to that now, actually I'll just play what it sounded like beforehand, and then with it in. So again, just adds a little bit of a uniqueness, a different sound, and I can apply them pretty much anywhere. So like if I wanted to add one here, let's go from the F. And it doesn't really matter how long this note is, as long as it doesn't go past the length of the second note, because then we'll get into some sort of weird like legato trilling mode, which again can be useful, but for this I don't want it to happen. And again, you can decide how sort of long the sweep is, even though the portamento is set to a specific time. Obviously it's going to start from this note and then jump up. So that's a useful tool that you can use instead of having to use the pitch bend or draw any automation in. All you have to do is basically, in the synth that you're using, obviously the example here is serum, is just make sure that your portamento's turned up. Now depending on how long it is, obviously if you set it more than a second, then it's going to keep sweeping up. But obviously we can actually listen to that now, see if we like the sound of it. So I'm just going to start from the first bar again. I'm going to make it the portamento really long. So yeah, that was a bit of an issue there because that second note was so short. We didn't actually hear it get to the note. It just kept sweeping up and then it just jumped into the next note straight away. So I tend to find for that kind of tool, if you're using shortish notes, obviously depending on the tempo of the music you're making as well, about 100 to 150 milliseconds is a good place to start at. So then the next thing we can actually look at is using the pitch bend wheel. Now obviously in most synths you can decide how far that is. These are either linked or separate. So sometimes it might be a plus minus of 12 semitones, and then you decide if it's 1 semitone, 2 semitone, but either side of the pitch bend, it's either +2 and -2 or +3 and -3. But with this we can actually separate it out, so I could have like +5 and -2. So when I pitch down it only goes 2 semitones below, but when I pitch up it goes 5 semitones above. So we can actually, these are separated out. I tend to find keeping them linked together, it's unique situations where I actually separate them out, and I tend to find it's when I'm writing bass lines. So it could be like a sweep down of 2 but a sweep up of 3 semitones, which I often find quite useful when I'm writing bass lines, to obviously have that like long pitch glide up. But for this one I'm going to use +5 and -5, and the reason is when I go into here I can actually start being really creative with these notes. If I go in and find MIDI control pitch bend, so this is now my pitch bend window to start utilising the pitch bend of +5 and -5 semitones, and I'm going to do it on this note here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a point afterwards, a point at the beginning and a point before, and then drag that right down. So what's going to happen, instead of having that portamento that I had before by drawing a note in below, it's going to start -5 semitones below, what was the note? C, and then jump to the C after it. And this is a bit without, and then this is a with. And obviously drawing in curves as well, what I'm doing here is holding Option down, obviously on Windows I think it's Control or Alt, I can't remember now, but on Mac it's Option, and I can click and drag, change the sweep of it as well. So I can make that pitch bend sound more extreme if I want to, or less extreme. And sometimes at the end of the bar I find quite cool as if it was sort of like a tail off, like if a vocal just started to sort of like pitch down, if you were singing it, is doing it with sort of like the final note of the bar. Again, not too extreme, but just by using that curve. And again, and so we can go through and do this to quite a few notes, and really this is to taste. You could have loads, you could have very few, but it wants to sound good. Again, as I always say in tutorials, whatever you add should make it sound better, it shouldn't make it sound worse. So you don't want to be sort of pitch bending every single note unless it's sort of the style you're looking for, but in this kind of thing, the music's quite simple, it's all about the groove, the feel of it. You don't want to be getting super intricate with your pitch bends and going all over the place with it. And I think what I might do on this one is, instead of pitching down, there's a little bit of a pitch up. Let's see what that sounds like. Second bar, that's it. And again, if I actually incorporated that with a sort of a bigger reverb tail as well, which if I go into here, I know this is not really pitch bending that I'm talking about now, but applying that with, just sticking that on a macro, like so, and going into the automation for that macro. Let's have a look, where did I put it? Click on that, next one, and it was on that last note of the second bar, I think. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, I'm just gonna basically make that reverb a little bit stronger, so it accentuates that pitch bend up. Oh, drag that down, there we go. Yeah, so something that, again, applying pitch bend and reverb together can make another unique and interesting sound. And obviously that pitch bend sort of tails up, and then with it going back to not the normal level that I'd set the reverb at, we're back into the normal sounding lead. And again, I can keep on going through this. So if we like, I could just copy this first bar, because the third bar is pretty much exactly the same. Yep. And what I could do on this final note as well is, again, just add a sweep in, and then the last one, last bar, just add some more interestingness to it. Again, not a real word, but I like to use it now. It's just like that, Let's have a look in, turn the automation view off. And if we just listen to, if I just delete all of this automation that I had before, I'm just going to duplicate this through. So, this is what we had before. Actually, let me just take out the portamento notes. Yeah, there we go. Mute them. So this was it without any sort of pitch modulation or pitch bending on it whatsoever. And then this is that same line, but with some portamento added, some pitch bend automation put in, and obviously that reverb in the second bar. And it's not a massive difference, but it just gives it a little bit more interesting sound to it, instead of it just every single note's triggered and it's playing the exact note that you've played. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, it depends on the style of music you're making, but it just gives you another tool. Just if you feel like your lead line's lacking something, you can add something more to it. Now, we could go further with this, and we could actually, instead of having both oscillators pitching, we could control the pitch of this one oscillator. Actually, let's see what that sounds like. So I'm going to use the fine tune, and if I turn the automation on, yeah, B fine, yeah, so that's in there. And I'm just going to, in the last bar of this one here, let's see what this starts to sound like. So this is going to go up 100 cents. So this is another thing that you could do. I feel like this is going to sound terrible, but let's see. Yeah, so what we could do is if we actually jump to fine pitch A, just to balance it out, is have this one, if we extend out so we can see B as well, B fine. Yeah, so we can just match the curve. Come on, there we go. So basically B's sweeping up and A's sweeping down in pitch. Now obviously that depends on the mix, one's louder than the other. If we turn that up, see if it sounds any better. Yeah, now I probably wouldn't keep that in what I've just done there in the style of music that I'm making. Now I'm not saying there isn't a use for it. If you were making some avant-garde or ambient form of music, then it might actually sound quite good, but for this, as we heard, it's not sounding too good. But again, it's just another tool you can use just to be a bit more creative with your pitch bends. So yeah, this is what we've got, and this is taking it from that original one and turning it into something a little bit more interesting with some pitch bend portamento, using pitch bend automation and actually adding automation to the reverb to accentuate one of the pitch bends as well. So this is what we've got. So yeah guys, that's a bit of creative pitch bending. If you've got any more ideas and you want to leave a comment below, something that I might have missed out, or anything that I've explained there that you found a little bit confusing or I didn't explain well enough, please drop a comment. I'll try and answer questions as best as I can. Please like, share and subscribe with this video. Drop click on the notification bell so you see my videos as well. Any future suggestions for videos as well, please leave a comment below. And if you're enjoying what I'm doing and you'd like to support, I've got a PayPal link below as well if you want to donate any money as well. Anyway, thanks for watching guys, I'll see you next time. Bye. Hi guys, SKETI here. Do you want to learn how to... Or how about... Or maybe even... Well, I'm now giving online one-to-one tuition. The lessons will be entirely centered around what you want to learn. We can cover such things as making drums, bass,
sound design, sidechaining, mixing, composition, music theory, mastering,
and much, much more. Maybe you just want to brush up on your production skills using Ableton Live or Logic, or whatever it is you want to learn. Get in touch on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube to find out more information. Bonus round. Every new student will get a free sample pack of their choice from my Exit Sounds sample label. So if this sounds good to you and you want your tunes to sound less like and more like. And get in touch to find out prices and book your first lesson now. See you soon.
Everybody jump!